Hey guys, it's Danny, and welcome back to another episode of the Swim Good podcast. So, on our last episode of exploring Black femininity or femininity in general, this whole movement that's happening, I talked a little bit about my story, but mostly I did my makeup. So, I really wanted to come on and do a part two to really kind of discuss some of the parts of the argument that I left out, some of those things that I feel make the femininity movement a little bit sticky for me as a woman who attended a women's college and I consider myself an avid feminist. I think that it's really important for us to kind of have conversations around, looking really at the femininity movement and where is it coming from. So I first started getting lots of notifications on YouTube for femininity content. And at first I was kind of taken aback by it. I'm like, what is this about? Like, why am I getting this? A lot of the movement at that time was specifically around, like, for brown skin or darker skin Black women. And I guess the thought there was that, in media and I guess in life as well, we are considered more aggressive, or that is how we're portrayed, rather, right? And how you're portrayed then impacts how people treat you in real life. And so I was seeing a lot of that. But I really kind of thought that a lot of the femininity movement came after the rise of this sort of new, I don't know if it's like new feminism, but the current iteration of feminism, right? And we kind of understand that the feminist movement, there's always kind of been a separation. And on one end, there is the white feminist movement. And then on the other end, there's for everybody else, or Black feminism. And I think the original idea of Black feminism came around about in the 70s or 80s. I have to check. I really should have done a little bit more research on that. But Black feminism kind of came out of this space that Black feminists felt like we weren't part of the I don't want to say original movement, because Black feminists have always been around. It's just that we were excluded, or they felt that they were excluded from the conversation because there are different levels of intersectionality that happen in the Black community. And so there's always been a little bit of a clash in terms of how to get the message out without kind of overcrowding the message, right? That seems to be the mainstream's feeling about not Black feminism, but Black feminist. And we can't get all these issues addressed, so let's just let's not make any waves, let's stick to women deserve rights, and that's it. But we know that it's not just women, that there are social hierarchies, unfortunately, and a lot of that comes down to race and skin color. And it happens here in America, but it also happens, I feel like skin color really plays an issue in other countries, where literally if you are not of a lighter skin tone, right? Even if you're in the same race category, but if you are not of a lighter skin tone, it will literally hold you back from getting a job, okay? So it literally takes food off of your table. And it's a huge issue. But coming back to kind of this femininity movement, I think originally I felt that because feminism was sort of rising again, and we had the Women's March after the last election, and from there the Me Too movement, and the Time's Up campaign, and I think that's actually an organization. Really, you saw kind of this convergence of women of all backgrounds trying to make sure that, all of the levels were met. And I think sometimes what can happen when the pendulum swings in one direction, right? So like feminism, we want equal rights, we want equal pay, for the same work. The oppressed women, oftentimes sort of get in bed with the oppressor, men, and the whole system of patriarchy. And so the women who feel like they benefit from patriarchy, meaning perhaps they are high up on the marriage market totem pole, they buy into that whole, if I present myself in a certain way, then I'll get the best guy who can support me and give me the best life possible. And so anytime you talk about equality for women and rights for women, that kind of disrupts that system for them, or at least that's how they feel. And so I kind of felt that this femininity movement was kind of an answer to the feminist movement. And so I was very, very, very wary about it. How I feel now is that I think there is something to being a woman, right? And it's okay to completely own your femininity, right? To be a feminine woman, if you so choose, if you want to, if that feels good for you, and to also be a feminist and expect rights, expect equal rights, to expect equitable opportunities, to expect freedom, to not expect to deal with harassment at work, and to expect to be compensated fairly and treated fairly, and treated just like as a human being. And so I believe I've had some instances, right, at certain jobs. I believe that with the current iteration of femininity, right, we have to kind of present this caveat. And here's the caveat. If the people that you're dealing with, right, don't respect the skin that you're in, be it the black skin that you're in, be it the woman, the feminine body that you occupy, it doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter how you present yourself. It doesn't matter how you dress. It doesn't matter how softly you speak, right? And how respectful you are. None of that matters. They will not respect you if they don't respect the body that you occupy, the skin that you're in. Are some people, who will see you how they see you, right? Or how they want to see you. And there is absolutely nothing that you can do to change that. That will be in the workplace, that can be with other women of different backgrounds, that can be with men, right? And so at a certain point, you have to understand that all of this, the hair, the makeup, and, that is aesthetic. So choose the aesthetic that makes you feel your personal best. But in saying that, does that mean it's going to change everything for you? Probably not. But I will say that there are some things about femininity, right, that I think just have to do that are not necessarily about using your feminine wiles, right, or your femininity in a flirty way that will kind of pull men to do as you wish. But there's that old saying, like, you attract more bees with honey than vinegar, right? And when you think about it like that, I think that women do have a special ability to be soft when it counts, right? Or when it matters. And you can always try that. You always have that. We always have that in our arsenal. And a lot of times it works. And I think particularly for Black women, we have to, our guard is up all the time because we don't know, is this interaction because of my race, because of what I look like, because of how you perceive me when I walked into the door. And so I think that kind of, it makes us tight. It puts us on edge. And I think that femininity is kind of learning to relax that, learning to walk into a space or walk into a situation, let's say with a man, in a way that, that's soft, that you find your power in that, and I think it's the same way that when we're at work and you have a negotiation, and you put on that power suit, right? And you feel assertive and ready to attack. I think it's the same way, right? Like that you can put on a coat of armor, and that armor can be a little bit more bendy, flexible, soft, feminine, if you will, to try to approach situations in a different way. All right. So those are some of my takes. I also want to talk about, looking at my notes, because last time I had notes, but I didn't take them, but I didn't look at them also because I didn't have my glasses. So I literally couldn't see, and I got all the way just like off. So yeah. So my point is, I just want to wrap that up and just like, we have to be careful about using femininity as a weapon to sort of enhance respectability politics. Because as Black people in this country, we know that, there are just certain people who will not see your humanity. They just won't. And everybody doesn't have to present in one way. Everybody has a role, right? And so some of us can be soft and can be well put together, and, get attention for the movement in that way. And then others of us will be more militant. And you can be militant like this too. You can be militant, in your makeup. And, it might get you more, it might give you the ability to have more people listening. But at the end of the day, just because you're owed people to listen to you, and so I encourage us to only enter into relationships, entanglements, and the like with people who respect our humanity. Okay, so then I also wanted to talk about, for me, Black femininity is strength, right? And that's something that I feel like is often weaponized against us when people see a strong Black woman. And by strong, I don't mean, we can take all this abuse and still be like, I'm still standing. I don't mean that kind of strong. I mean physically strong. I mean beautiful, muscular Black female bodies, like a Simone Biles, and we know what happens anytime our strength, our physique is displayed, right, and showing absolute dominance, it then becomes masculine. But I'd like us to really consider strength as feminine, Michelle Obama and her beautiful arms, right? Feminine. It's funny how the whole time while she was in the White House, it was so masculine, right? And then once she left, it was like everyone all of a sudden, not everyone, but a lot of people kind of got behind her all around the world. Like she was like literally the most popular woman of 2019, maybe 2018 to 2019. I can't remember when her book was released, but her strength just to go through what she went through, but also like her height, right? And for me, Michelle Obama and I are the same height, so I take pride in any tall woman who stands tall, you know, and embraces, you know, the fullness of her womanhood. Who else? Okay, so anyway, the Black ballerina, Misty Copeland. I think that she gets a lot of support, but she also gets a lot of heat. I'm not quite sure where it comes from. I don't know if it's because she's, you know, sort of held up as the only principal Black ballerina. We know that's not true. There are several principal Black ballerinas around the world. But what I will say about Misty is, one, she's down for the cause. Two, she is so strong. Like, if you ever watch how she poses, she doesn't pose in a way that is like, look at me, I'm a beautiful swan. She poses like a beautiful swan, but she always poses in a way that like it showcases the flex and the firmness of her muscles and how strong she is. And I think that if you've ever been a dancer, particularly, you know, in ballet, and you're Black and your body shape isn't that sort of lithy, skinny, you know, what you think of when you think of a ballerina, that always, right, becomes like an issue as Black girls in ballet kind of grow, that their body is picked apart for being too big, right, to be taken seriously. So anyway, I love Misty Copeland, and I think she's awesome, and I think she's a great representative of feminine Black female strength. And then also everybody's fave, Serena, right? And we know what kind of harassment Serena got coming up and still continues to get to this day. And if you ever pay attention to Serena, she is the softest, goofiest, like ultra feminine, girly girl, you know, outside of being on the court. And so I just think that we have to really kind of broaden the definition of femininity. So I want to quickly go back to my femininity story. I talked a little bit about kind of how I was like an ugly duckling or late bloomer, just kind of not growing up, but in my, you know, late teens, college years, into my mid 20s, before I kind of stepped into like who I am. But I think another part of femininity that we don't talk about is motherhood. And for me, I felt like when I was pregnant, that pregnancy is like the tantamount sort of point of femininity. You are literally bringing life, you know, doing biologically what our bodies, women's bodies are meant to do, which is to produce life, and to bring life into this world. And I felt so feminine, and I got a lot of attention when I was pregnant. There is something about that protruding belly that people like love to look at. And I felt super connected to just my womanhood. But I will say, once that baby gets here, it's a whole other story. And I feel like motherhood is one of the least feminine, or I would say early motherhood is, for at least for me, maybe I shouldn't speak for most people, but I feel like we're all out here struggling, right? Like, it's one of the least feminine moments. Like, you literally give everything of you to this child. And I think that there are certain traditions and other cultures who make sure that that doesn't happen, that there's more support for the woman, so that you have time to heal. But I feel like if you don't have like that kind of connection to, you know, a certain culture or ethnicity, then you're just left out here, okay? And I feel that I really let myself go. I now have well, she'll be 4 in like a month, less than a month, in a few weeks. And I am finally, hopefully most people are not like me, but I'm finally kind of finding myself again, stepping back into my own femininity, because I'm less concerned with putting my all into this other being. And I will say that there are parts of femininity or womanhood that you have to be really careful, particularly when you're raising a girl child. I had an incident recently with my daughter. I was making her and I a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We were just making some lunch, and she says to me, there's 2 sandwiches, all right? She's gonna help me make the sandwiches. And she says to me, oh, mommy, are you making daddy's peanut butter sandwich? And I'm like, daddy's not even here, boo. I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the 2 people in this room. That's me and you, And I was just like, you're almost 4 and you put those gender roles, like you spit them out at me like that. And do I cook 99.9% of the time? Yes, I do. But I think that we have to be careful with messaging towards our young girls. It doesn't mean that they should not be feminine, but we really have to make sure that they are not drawing conclusions that don't apply, and that will only hold them back later in life. And so we've had to have conversations about everybody can wear pink. You don't have to like pink because you're a girl. Because my daughter, her favorite color was black since she could say the word black, which was about 1.5, until about last year. And then in the last 6 months, she's been like, pink, I want pink dresses, I want pink this, I want pink that. And I'm like, really? Okay. Now my favorite color is purple, so I was really trying to get her into purple, but she wasn't having it. But now I realize that she liked pink because she thought she needed to. So, I think there's just things that we have to, pay attention to. But I think in terms of femininity with women, it's like a roller coaster. And I think we're always going to be finding things about ourselves that make us feel feminine. And I think absolutely, I think relationships, and this is for anybody, any kind of relationships work best when there's a balance, right? And that, that each person is encompassing both masculine and feminine qualities. And I don't think that men always need to be masculine. I don't think that women always need to be feminine. But also I don't think femininity should only be represented by the soft, right? Because there's so much strength in femininity. There's so much resiliency in femininity. And yeah, so I want you guys to tell me, what do you think about this femininity movement? Do you feel like it's a hindrance to the community? Do you feel like it's a help? Let me know your thoughts. So once again, this has been another episode of the Swim Good podcast, and I'm Danny, and I'll talk to you guys next time.